Hello friends, and welcome back to the channel. Basically, there's a secret Assassin's Creed DLC that came out the same day the game released, and it's actually amazing. In this video, I'm going to share with you what the DLC actually is, 3 reasons it's better than the critically acclaimed Jack the Ripper DLC, and finally, why it's become a secret that no one knows about to this day. So let's get into it. What is the Dreadful Crimes DLC? The Dreadful Crimes is a 10-mission downloadable content pack in which Jacob and Evie investigate murders, kidnappings, and other crimes throughout London. Now that doesn't sound too crazy until you understand that the allure of these things is that they're actual mysteries and they don't simply follow the classic Assassin's Creed mission formula. These 10 investigations will have you analyzing bullet trajectories, deducing secret relationships, and using all sorts of different context clues to uncover what may or may not have happened. Okay, so reason number 1. The presentation of the missions. Upon getting to the waypoint on the map, you'll receive a quick briefing of what you're about to be walking into. Oftentimes something like, oh, we just found a body in the park and here's their name. Once you arrive to the actual crime scene, you're left to your own devices. Search around and discover. There are often clues which are helpfully highlighted in gold once you've activated your eagle vision. You basically have to be walking around in eagle vision during the entire investigation, but this is one of the biggest positives of the DLC in my opinion. The game superimposes these details about the clue, like what you found about it. For example, like a handkerchief will have blood on it, and it'll say that. But it can also go on into full reenactment mode, where it maps out bullet trajectories or someone's movements right before the crime actually took place. Once you've found a clue, this cool writing and maybe other details appear above and around the found clue. In the same environment you're finding the clues, there will also be suspects standing around, which are basically people to question. These people stand in the same exact spot the whole mission while you search around them, and sometimes a clue you find will create a new question to ask them when you see them again. Some missions entirely take place in a single room, and sometimes you're searching and questioning through an entire district to find out the truth of what exactly occurred. Before I continue, I just want to take a second to remind you to like and subscribe if you want more videos like this. My next video will be my review of the Jack the Ripper DLC for Assassin's Creed Syndicate. Comment below what game you think I should try out next. Reason number 2. Gameplay. You've uncovered the clues and questioned the suspects, and you're starting to feel like you may have an idea of what's happened here, but you're not 100% sure. And then the game tells you you have everything needed to solve the mystery and make an accusation. This is another huge point where the Dreadful Crimes shines. It doesn't hold your hand and guide you to the next checkpoint. No, the game is flat out telling you you have all the info, it's time to accuse someone of the crime. If you don't know who did it, or you're having trouble picking between different suspects, it may be time to re-examine the clues, the testimonies, and even review the areas you've previously searched. The clues and testimonies are all helpfully organized in the pause menu for your viewing pleasure. This is where the real gameplay of this DLC comes in. It's up to you at home to put the final pieces together and deduce without the game's input what actually happened. Sometimes all the pieces fit together cleanly except for one big huge clue which throws everything off. And sometimes it feels like it's a bunch of clues that don't fit together at all right up until the end when you finish rereading what everyone was saying and you get that beautiful aha moment that I'm always hunting for. This is truly what made me adore this DLC, and all 10 levels are like this. They all require extra thought, and it's not simply turn your brain off entertainment, which by the way I'm obviously a huge fan of given the fact I've chosen to make a video game review channel on YouTube. Now, they did take some of the gameplay elements created and used in this DLC and implemented them into the future Jack the Ripper DLC, and it's pretty cool, but in no part of the Jack the Ripper missions does it require huge thought or consideration from the player, and is essentially a guided experience. This does make sense as the people playing Jack the Ripper DLC and people that would be interested in Sherlock Holmes the game investigations without handholding might not intersect as much as you'd think, but it still feels like a bit of a lost opportunity to me. Alright, now reason 3. Story and length. The 10 varied missions in this DLC are all completely different, ranging from murders to lost persons to even psychics at one point. They all take place in completely different locations, and no one crime even so much as resembles another. They all have their own characters, story, and details to share with you as you investigate. The crimes are all well written, and I was only able to solve 1 or 2 of them before all the information was shared with me. I even got one completely wrong due to a calculation error on my part. I never knew what to expect for the next crime, and that was truly what was so exciting about them. With the main game and even the Jack the Ripper DLC, you can kind of feel where the game's going to go with it as it introduces things, and even with its troubled development, Assassin's Creed Syndicate didn't try too hard to buck any of the tropes it was setting up. The DLC takes about 3 to 4 hours to complete and can be done anytime after Chapter 3. I'll go into detail why this matters a little later in the video. The narrative throughout the whole DLC is that after you solve these crazy crimes, they're being published as penny dreadfuls. which were basically cheap popular serial comic or regular books that were essentially a 19th century British publishing phenomenon, selling upwards of 1 million periodicals a week. The reason for you to continue solving the crimes is simply to see what the next one could possibly be, up until the end where things change up a bit, motivations are altered, and the relationships between you and the other crime solvers evolve to new heights. Being that the game takes place when it does, these missions are obviously influenced or even an homage to Sherlock Holmes. The game even goes a bit further in this and gives you a Holmes outfit to wear while solving the crimes. I didn't notice this till later on, but a nice little nudge from the developers. The overarching story of the DLC is pretty good and quite worth playing to the end, as the cases seem to get more and more crazy as the number you've done goes up. So why is this DLC such a big secret? The Dreadful Crimes DLC was quickly announced to come out on the same day as Assassin's Creed Syndicate, exclusively for the PlayStation 4. Sony did their best to make gamers aware, but there wasn't much marketing around the DLC, which fits as it was limited only to one console and it was rumored to be a timed exclusive. It also came free with your PS4 pre-release copy of the game, but you still had to go out of your way onto the PlayStation Store and manually buy the game for $0, start the download and all that. In the main game it isn't mentioned at all unless you go into the in-game store. It's also difficult to even find the missions in the game once you've actually installed the DLC. For the first mission, it shows up on the map as a magnifying glass, so it doesn't even look like the other side missions, which usually have a letter on them so people don't think it's just like a searchable area or a landmark. The more I think about it and the more I research into it, is the more I start to truly feel like maybe someone wasn't happy about the exclusivity or something like that and actively attempted to sabotage the marketing and release of this thing. It's just such bizarre timing from the release to the marketing and the lack of visibility on all these fronts. So, finally, 6 months passes, the time exclusivity runs out for the DLC, and boom, it gets placed onto Steam, and only Steam. Xbox did not, and to this day currently does not, have the Dreadful Crimes DLC available on its storefront, which is pretty much the final nail in this DLC's coffin. No wonder no one has heard about it. They treated it like it was a 20-minute exclusive mission like the other Syndicate DLCs, and not the add-on $20 season pass incentivizer it actually is. But, okay, fine, you've convinced me, Original. You give in and you load up your old PS4 copy that you had beaten back when the game came out, and you go and try out the Dreadful Crimes DLC for yourself. But, oh, it looks like you're already on mission 4 somehow. That's okay, you can simply replay the missions like every other mission in the main game, and the DLCs, right? Wrong. For no reason at all, the Dreadful Crimes DLC missions aren't replayable. Do you remember me saying there was like a sabotage somewhere in here? So, the missions aren't replayable on PS4 and Steam as well, according to a couple of old forum posts. To restart the Dreadful Crimes DLC, if you played one mission already, you have to restart the entire game and get to Sequence 3, which will take a couple hours at least. And as a final laugh, the developers of Syndicate never imagined someone would even want to restart the whole game from scratch because they made it possible to replay every mission. So there literally isn't even an option to restart the game, start a new game, or even delete your progress and start anew from the in-game menu. Luckily, I had an extra PSN account on my console I could use just for this, but that's just like the one last laugh they got on me. So, I restarted the game from the beginning and played for an hour or two and finally got to Sequence 3. All of this, and it was still extremely worth it to play through this DLC, which is what makes it so insane to me of how this whole thing played out. It's such an odd situation, and I have so many questions that I would love to know the answers to. Because there's 100% a team that's very proud of this DLC, but all these weird marketing decisions and little in-game tweaks basically ensured it would never be treated as anything more than a quick 20-minute console-exclusive side mission DLC like the other 2 DLCs that came out with Syndicate, instead of this 4-hour-long convoluted mystery story. The Assassin's Creed Wiki doesn't even mention it as an aside in its main downloadable content section, and these guys are supposed to be bigger fans than I am. I just wish somehow someone behind the scenes of the game had pushed an advertisement into the main game missions, or made it so that the story began in the side missions of the main game and then opened up for more once you bought and downloaded the DLC. The Last Maharaja did this, and although I wasn't the biggest fan of that DLC, anyone who had interest in playing it knew what they were in before having to even purchase the DLC. Honestly, it's starting to feel like I could go on about all this for hours, and all in all, I do truly believe that the Dreadful Crimes DLC is the best DLC available for Syndicate, and I think anyone with a slight interest in mysteries or detective-type games should give it a shot. Even with everything that it's been through, I'm still immensely happy with what we got here. The Dreadful Crimes DLC is available for $5 on the PlayStation Store for use with the PS4 version and on Steam for the PC.